Hey guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC Vegas 46. Calvin Kattar against Giga Chikadze is our main event and our first event of 2022, which I kind of nearly forgot the year there. It kind of flew that past. Hope everybody's well. Hope you all had a nice start to the new year. Really excited to get some fights back finally here. It's been a kind of long month not watching any fights and trying to get a head start in cards upcoming. So much looking forward to these fights coming up this weekend. For some of you guys that are kind of catching up with me for the first time in a long time, hope you're well. Welcome back. And I'm here to just talk some fights again, just the same that I've been doing for nearly 9 years. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to grow the channel again this year. Please throw a thumbs up because it always helps. And if you get any questions, any disagreements, agreements with me, any bets you want to throw my way, absolutely do that. So, yeah, like I say, really looking forward to talking about this card. It's taking some hits with some fights I was looking forward to, but it's got a really solid main event. And like I say, it's getting us back in tow for 2022. I'll try and jump into the chat towards the end there, but I'm going to get straight into some of these fight card predictions and we can talk about it here. So I'm kind of going off what Topology has. And we're starting off with Vanessa Thermopolis against Silvana Gomez Juarez. I mean, low-level women's MMA, to me, it kind of looks like a striker v grappler. I think if I'm Thermopolis, I think I want to get this fight to the ground. I think she's supposedly a jiu-jitsu black belt. And you kind of seen that. I think it was the Sam Hughes fight. She was kind of losing that fight pretty comprehensively. But then she caught a submission, I think, in the 5th round there, and the girl went to sleep. So she's got a little bit of credence there with her jiu-jitsu. Striking, I'm not overly impressed with. I think she's maybe a little bit faster, where I think the power kind of resides on the Juarez side. But Juarez, I mean, picking her here, I've seen actually someone messaged me through the week last week and asking her if she was a solid dog bet, and I was like, dude, she's like 36, 37 years old. She came in against Lupe Godinez. She got taken down. What I did like about that, the fact that she got taken down, is the fact that she got back to her feet. I always like fighters that can do that. Now, it didn't really last long because she got submitted very, very quickly. Thermopolis, like I say, I thought she would at least have looked a little bit better in her previous kind of fights in the UFC, and she's really not looked all that good. At all, losing to JJ Aldridge. And JJ is quite a solid vet at this point. She came up through the Invicta scene, and yeah, she's solid. That's as much as I can say for her. But like I say, her losses are to pretty much UFC fighter caliber fighters like Godinez, Cody McKenna, who's a UFC fighter. For me here, I'm kind of leaning more on the Juarez side. It wasn't a fight I really wanted to look too much into because I really want no part in really betting it. And I think it should be like what the odds are, which is pretty much a pick 'em. So I'm going to lean with Juarez. I think if she does get taken down, if she can avoid the submissions and get back to her feet, I think she's got more power. I think she's got a little bit more output on there. So I'm going to go Juarez for that one there. Brian Kell against Yakub Kakmanov. This is one I was looking at. I was thinking, right, I'll put my hand up and say I've never been the biggest Brian Kell fan, or even I didn't think much kind of about him. I think he's a solid vet. Obviously, comes in and can get some wins. But the guy's tough. The guy's a really tough fighter to face. He's hard to put away. You're not really going to put this guy away, not unless you're really, really a solid fighter, like a knockout from John Lineker or a bit of a kind of athletic freaking like Montel Jackson. Like those are his losses via stoppage in the UFC. I think Cheeto was in there as well as a stoppage. But other losses were Simone and Cody Stamen, who are top 15 guys. So you can't really moan too much about that. Domingo Pilarty fight last time out in August, got takedowns. I think he had like 12 or 13 minutes of top time. But the guy's pretty well rounded in all kind of facets, can take you down, can strike with you a little bit, and he's very, very dangerous if you put your kind of head in the wrong position. You can get guillotined very, very easily, like Rodriguez did, Odi Osborne did. So if you put your head in the wrong place with a guy like Keller, he can take your neck and he can make you tap out. Kakmanov, another side there. Actually, this was a guy I seen a long time ago when he was in the PFL, and they tried to feed him to Umar Nurmagomedov, and I thought in that fight he did a really sound, solid job in that fight of look decent, because like I say, he was fed to the wolves in that one. They were expecting him to lose pretty comprehensively, and then come out there, give a decent show of himself. Still lost the fight right enough. Made his run through kind of regionals, got his opportunity against Trevin Jones. The guy got himself a guillotine choke in a very kind of competitive fight where I think Jones was probably edging him, but managed to find the finish. There's not too many times I've been super kind of confident. I don't want to say I'm super confident Keller here, but for me, I kind of feel like maybe the odds should maybe be reversed, and Keller should maybe be a favourite. And this is something that's kind of changed over the last couple of days, where I was on Kakmanov, but I'm gonna take a shot in the dog on Brian Keller. I just think that in a fight where I think it could be relatively close, I think he could just do a little bit more, use that kind of veteran savviness in this spot, and really just win him the fight through that. So I'm going to take Brian Kelleher for the win there. But like I said, I've kind of changed my mind on that pick kind of recently with that one. Dakota Bush against Slava Borschev. Slava, even though I wasn't making videos at this point, Slava was a guy I got quite a few messages from his last fight when he fought Chris Duncan. Now, Chris Duncan's a guy that fights out of Scotland, and a lot of people come and message me saying, do you think Chris Duncan is kind of live in this spot? And like I said, I know Chris through his Bellator days. I think he's now signed to Cage Warriors. But I thought he had an opportunity to win that fight. But when I watched Borschev, I was actually pretty surprised with how good his striking was. I thought that his grappling would be fairly decent coming from alpha male. I think it's something that's always going to be not his greatest strength, but he'll be improving on it. And you've seen in that fight with Duncan that he's got some beautiful striking techniques, and he's got really that finishing sequence where he caught, I think it was the left hook right on the money. It was a beautiful shot there. And I kind of like what I see. I like the fact that he's getting here very, very quickly, but it's like whether you want to kind of fade some of these Dana White contender fighters, because I'm kind of the ilk that you should maybe do that. When I look at Dakota Bush, nothing really stands out too much to me. He's aggressive. He comes forward, looks to kind of put it on you a little bit there. Took his L on short notice against Austin Hubbard. Was supposed to fight Zhu Rong. I remember that fight got cancelled. But he's someone that not overly impressed with it. If I'm thoroughly being honest, I think this is a decent kind of matchup for Borschev, even though he's still fairly young in his career, and I think maybe Bush might want to maybe try and hold him up a little bit, maybe try and get those takedowns. But I think on the feet, I think that Borshev's just going to have a little bit too much for him. So I am leaning Borschev in that one. I was thinking, right, could I throw him in a parlay? Because I was looking at a spot where I wanted Barcelos, who's not on this card anymore, but I thought to put him with Borschev. And there was another guy on there that I kind of liked him with, but I thought just stay away from this, just watch, see if we can get more data on him and kind of go from there. But for me, I'm going to go for Borschev in this one. I'm seeing quite a bit of love for him through your Twitters and even your Reddit. I read a little bit through that as well. So yeah, I like Borschev to win that one there. Gabriel Benitez against TJ Brown. This was the guy I was looking at maybe throwing a parlay in with Barcelos and then Borschev. And I'm a big Gabriel Benitez fan. I think he's a very, very, very solid fighter, and he does well kind of against guys of this kind of ilk of opposition. Not really guys that maybe should be in the UFC. When you look at Benitez, I think he's got devastating strike, and I like it. I like the way he can kind of dismantle you with obviously his kicks. I think his hands are fairly decent as well. But again, he's not getting any wins, I don't think, over current UFC fighters, which is not the greatest look in the world. And when he's kind of taken that step up to your Omar Morales, he's kind of, I don't want to say Omar Morales is a kind of that much of a better fighter than Benitez, but when he's kind of taking that step up from guys like your Janes and let's say to your Files and your Barzolas. He's kind of faltered a little bit where he's been beating your guys like Bandanai and Jason Knight, who are kind of on the way out then. So, and then obviously last time he faced Billy Quarantillo, where he kind of took a little bit of a beating in that one. But Billy Q was seen can obtain a lot of damage and keep coming. And he's got a great gas tank, fairly well-rounded fighter, and it's dangerous, and lost that one there. TJ Brown, to me, I think that he has to go back to his takedown games. I've seen that he's been trying to kind of elevate striking, put more combinations together, which would help him. But I just don't think he's at that level in the UFC where he can predominantly stand there for a long amount of time and actually be efficient with it. If he does that with Benitez, I think Benitez will start to rip him apart. And TJ Brown in the past has been beat up by low kicks, and there's not many guys in the UFC with better kind of harder low kicks than your Gabriel Benitez. So I'm going to take Mowgli Benitez. I like him inside the distance here. I think he can stop the very tough TJ Brown, but that's kind of where I'm going there. I like Benitez in that spot there. Court McGee against Ramiz Brahimaj. I like the vet in this one. When I look at Brahimaj, a guy that's, I think, still obviously very young in his career, it's a kind of weird matchup here with a guy in McGee who's got so many fights in the UFC. And then Brahimaj, I want to say this is his third one that he's had in the UFC. So coming off that obviously devastating loss to kind of Max Griffin, where his ear kind of exploded out there, it wasn't very nice, was kind of getting beat up with the long frame of Max Griffin. Came back against Sasha Palatnikov, who to me just doesn't, like, it just didn't look like he had anything off the ground. Like he was very like a novice down there, which, well, I don't want to say a novice. That's a little bit disrespectful, but he just looked like he didn't have much when he was down there. And he got taken down a little bit there. When you look at McGee, I kind of written this guy off, I want to say, when he was losing those 3 fights. But when you look who he was facing, I mean, Condit can still bring it on his day. That was a fight there where it was 2 kind of vets going against one another, and you had Condit who really just did enough in the striking there. Sean Brady was seen, very tough fighter, very good grappler, can strike, can put it all together. But he came through against Claudio Silva. Both guys, like I say, they're a lot older in this division, the welterweight division, than many other guys. But he kind of outlasted him, got the takedowns, didn't go into the positions where Claudio Silva could hurt you, and then just kind of reigned supreme up there and won that. What I like about Court McGee is when he gets taken down, he doesn't stay there all that long, and he's got a fairly decent takedown average. I think a takedown defense average of like 70%, and I just don't see Brahimaj getting meaningful takedowns and meaningful time on top. If he can do that, that's where I think he wins the fight. First round's going to be big here, where I think that Brahimaj could ultimately come out here and do that, maybe take him down, have a couple of minutes of top time, win the round through that. Once it gets to 2 and 3, I think it's just going to be a little bit, for me, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to do. I think McGee's going to know what's coming, and I think he's just going to ilk out those 2 rounds. So for me, I kind of like Court McGee in this one here. I'm actually pretty tempted to bet him. He's minus 110 over here in the UK at the minute, and I'm going to wait and see kind of where I'm going to go in that one, but maybe I shouldn't be betting guys that are 37, 38 years old or whatever it may be in the UFC. But I like him in this spot here. I think that if he can initially get through that first round, where it might be a little bit tough, I think he can win 2 and 3 and win on a judge's scorecard. So Court McGee in that one there. Jamie Pickett against Joseph Holmes. So this was the kind of one of the last ones I did here. I didn't really want to look into the kind of history of Jamie Pickett because it's not overly exciting, but guy got a win in the UFC, big win at that, because he probably kept his job where when he beat Staropoli, and I don't want to say I was overly impressed with what I've seen from him in that fight. He kind of just did enough to win the fight. Staropoli started off like really strong, then he started to fade. You've seen Pickett put him against the cage, really make it a kind of dirty, sloppy fight. I think this is what it's going to be. I think it's not going to be the greatest fight in the world. Like I say, he's got a UFC win to his name as Jamie Pickett. Nothing to really write home about. I thought, right, this might be a decent spot for Joseph Holmes coming in here. Never heard of the guy before in my life. Went and watched a couple of his fights, and just not super impressed with what I see. I've seen a couple of guys that I speak to on Twitter. They're saying that they feel that Joseph Holmes is kind of better everywhere, and I'm like, is he really? I think he's very green when I watch him. I think his ground game is pretty. I don't want to say solid because he's did it against guys who outside the UFC level. And what you can say about Pickett is that he's been around a long time. He's came through the Dana White Contender Series. He's fought better guys than what Holmes has. But you see that he wants to get the fight to the ground. Maybe he can have a big advantage if he gets there. I just don't see his overall kind of ground game as being overly, I don't want to say dangerous. He's did against guys with not great records. When I watch him, I'm not overly impressed. Obviously, he's been in the Dana White Contender Series as well. I wanted to take a shot on Jamie Pickett, but then I was just like, nah. Like I say, if the lines were kind of reversed, maybe Holmes was a dog at plus 130, I would think about the shot, but I really want to kind of stay off here. I was thinking about picking Jamie in this one here. I think I'm going to go with Holmes. I think he can. This is going to be an ugly fight where it gets down here. There could be long standoffs on the ground where top position from Holmes, trying to find a submission, ground and pound. Pickett could possibly get back to the mat, push us against the cage. I'm going to take Holmes. I'm going to take Holmes via decision in that one there. Bill Algeo against Joanderson Brito. Like this fight, have a bet on this fight. I've got a bet on Brito in this spot, minus 125. I love his aggression. This is the guy I was watching a couple of years ago outside the UFC, and I wanted to, I think I put out one of my videos for 10 fighters the UFC should sign in whatever year it might have been. And this was a guy that I thought had an opportunity to make his way kind of into the UFC, coming out of Brazil, then got his opportunity in the UFC through the Dana White Contender Series. I just love this guy's aggression. I do worry a little bit about his gas tank and facing someone like an Algeo who's faced decent competition, been in the UFC. He's not like a rookie to the big time anymore. And he showed solid performances in his UFC fights, even when he fought Brendan Loughnane, who's a fairly decent fighter who would definitely win fights in the UFC. Gave a fairly decent account of himself there, lost pretty convincingly, but still, I just don't like the takedown defense from Algeo. I think there's a little bit accepting of that, and Brito is going to definitely look for takedowns and get the fight to the ground. Now, like I say, where I am worried as a bet on Brito is if he kind of gasses out really quickly against a guy like Algeo, because like I say, he's got a lot of experience. I just like the kind of experience side of Algeo. He's fought decent guys, and I don't think that Algeo's overly, I don't want to say not dangerous down on the ground. I think, but I just feel like this is a really decent spot. I do think this is a decent spot for Joanderson Brito. I just like his aggressiveness. I like the fact he wants to take it to the ground. We'll be heavy on top. We'll look to range shots. Now, if he can't get those takedowns, he will still stand there and sling a little bit. And that's where if he starts to tire, maybe Algeo could maybe pick him apart a little bit in that spot. But I've got Joanderson Brito. I like him in this spot. I put a bet down at minus 125. Hopefully he can bring it home for me, but that's where I'm kind of going there. I think that how he wins it, he can get the fight to the ground early on the first couple of rounds, kind of have longer moments down there where he can have minutes down there, ground and pound, and just kind of win the rounds through that. But it could be a little bit sketchy, but I'm going to take Brito in that spot there. Jake Collier against Chase Sherman. I have to side with Jake Collier here. Chase Sherman, to me, I don't think he'll be around the kind of UFC after this one here. I think that his defense is just not good. I think his striking's okay. He can throw some decent combinations, but he's always there to be hit. And I think Collier, you can say what you want about his physique and how he's changed over the years and whatever. Back in the day when he was at a lighter weight class, I thought he was a fairly decent fighter, well put together fighter. I still don't think that's lost on him. I know he came back and he moved from middleweight to pretty much heavyweight and so on. And didn't look good initially when he came back against Tom Aspinall. When everybody seen him, was like, oh, Jesus, what is going on here? But since then, I think he's looked half decent. Now, in saying that, he's fought Volante, no longer in the sport anymore. Carlos Felipe, I thought that he could have definitely won that fight. Can throw out a nice long jab as well, and he's always going to connect on Chase Sherman. It's whether Chase Sherman can land those low kicks to maybe demobilize him a little bit and kind of hit him with those aftershots with his combinations if he decides to throw after his leg kicks. I like Jake Collier here. I like him by decision. I think he was plus 140, I want to say, was via decision. I don't know what the starts round 2. Actually, that might be a bet make. Starts round 2 at over 1.5. It might be a parlay piece for something that I might like. So I'll go into look at that one after this. But I like Jake Collier in this spot. I think that it's a good opportunity for him here to get another dub in the UFC. Brandon Royval against Rogerio Bontorin. Oh, this is one I've been thinking about a bit as well. Initially, I thought Bontorin, I think, has got a really, really good opportunity to win this fight, and I was very close to really betting him. And then I just, when I was watching some of them, and like even though I think he was at 135 against Matt Schnell last time, I think that there's just some things that kind of scare me a little bit, and I don't like the fact at flyweight he's missed that weight a few times. We've seen him kind of knocked out a little bit. And where I liked him in this one, I thought that, right, Royval, we know what he's like. He's like the Tasmanian devil, comes forward. I don't think he's ever really going to change being like that, where he's so, like, creates chaos, comes forward and just puts it on you and looks to just kind of really drown you, is what he tries to do. And he'll put himself into bad position by doing that. He will do spins on the feet where he can get his back taken. I think it was the Pantoja fight. He was just doing stuff like, you can't do that against guys like Pantoja, who, once they get you into spots like that, can ultimately take you out, and that's what happened there. But then you look at the Bontorin side, I'm just really sketched out with his conditioning, with his cardio. I think that he's got some decent power. I think he could land on Royval. But where I'm really kind of leaning on the Royval side here is just him doing a lot more than what Bontorin is. Now, if Bontorin can get the back and establish himself there and keep him there, which I'm not sure with Royval, because like I say, he's go. He won't stop in positions where he's on the bad side of it. He will try and move himself into a better position and get himself on top or get the back, wherever it may be. I just think that he could drown out Bontorin with his just his craziness. And I think that's where Royval's going to really, he's going to try and create chaos here, and he's going to tire Bontorin out. I think he's just going to wind. He's going to actually think he could take out Bontorin here. So I'm going to take Royval. I'm actually going to take him via submission. I think he subs the Brazilian here. And like I said, I've kind of changed my tune in this fight from before the new year when I was looking at it a little bit. I thought, I quite like Bontorin. He might be a shot. Even into the early new year, I was thinking that. But watching a couple more fights on Royval, I think that he has the opportunity here to beat Bontorin. So I'll go with Raw Dog in this one here and that one there. I think there's talks of Michel Pereira still fighting this card against Andre Fiallo, I think it's how you pronounce it. Who's 11-4 and he's really only lost to kind of decent guys, who's not one of these bad fighters that they bring in short notice, like your Jamie Simmons or whatever it may be. This guy is actually pretty solid. So I don't know whether that fight's been confirmed yet, but that looks like what's going to happen. As of right now, co-main events, Katlyn Chookagian and Jennifer Maia. This is a rematch of a couple of years ago where Katlyn did her thing, as she usually does. I don't see a hell of a lot really changing from the Maia side to really make this fight any different than the first time around. The only thing that I never like about fighters is when they mention retirement and stuff, and Chookagian's did that a little bit recently, but in saying that, she still came out there with decision wins over Vivi Araujo and Cynthia Calvillo, and she did so, I think, against Calvillo as a big dog in that spot there. So where do I see Maia maybe potentially win this fight, getting takedowns and being heavy on top? But outside of that, I think Chookagian's going to keep her distance. She's going to pot shot. She's going to do the chook, as some guys out there say. And like I say, I think Chookagian by decision. I don't know what the betting line is on Chookagian. I think she'll probably be about minus 160s, 170s. You're probably getting a better number there. I'd be surprised if she took her out. It just doesn't really happen with Katlyn Chookagian. So I'm going to take Chookagian to kind of win the second fight with these two. And moving on to the main event, Calvin Kattar against Giga Chikadze. So I'll put out this. I've never been high on Giga. I thought that he was kind of going to get found out in the UFC, if I'm being brutally honest. I thought that he would come into the UFC and eventually he would get found out, but absolutely give the guy enormous props. Recently, he's really looked like he's became a very, very solid UFC fighter who's really found his form and his confidence. And you've seen that in his last 3 fights where he's got 3 big stoppages, and especially his last 2 against guys who are legit. Like, you're not going to downplay his last 2 wins. You can say that, Barboza's taken so much damage and Cub Swanson's kind of at the tail end of his career, which is, both of them are true, but you've still got to go out there and do that. And he's doing that to these guys. And he did it quick to Cub. In the Barboza fight, was just landing at will on Barboza, and Barboza was kind of a little bit stuck in the mud, didn't really know how to kind of react to Giga or counter Giga that well, and then eventually got taken out in that fight. When you look at Keita, I think that he did completely the right thing. When you watch that fight with Max Holloway, the instant thing that you're going to say is like, he needs to take a year off. The guy's literally, I think, to the day taking a year off. Smart of him not to come back later and like the middle part of last year, and maybe even like 9 months in, taking a full year, get his faculties back in order, and then go from there, because that was a hellacious beating that he took to Max Holloway. That was one of my performances of the year, was Holloway's domination of Calvin Kattar. But what's Calvin Kattar really known for? Beautiful flowing boxing, great jab, can throw up some nice combinations. When you look at the two of them here, you've kind of got the hands of Calvin against Giga's kicks, which are dangerous. He can break you down with low kicks. I think his body kick is the thing I'm kind of looking at here, where I think that he could melt Calvin Kattar to the body and maybe shut him down. And we've seen a little bit with Max Holloway that with his punches, he really affected his body, but that was after taking enormous damage up top. And I mean, Holloway was just ripping the body as well. But Giga's kicks are legit. Like, they really, really are. And what he's did from when he came into UFC in 2019, Giga, it's like you've seen the progression with him. And like I said, this is where I was kind of writing him off. Brandon Davis, I thought, was going to take him down, was going to submit him, didn't do that. Jamal Emmers, I thought he was going to take him down and kind of smother him, didn't do that. And then he's moved on and really got better opposition. Your Morales, a tough guy, but it was a really good style matchup for Giga in that one there. Then he got, like I say, his last 3 fights in 2020 and the last 2 fights in 2021 have shown that this guy belongs in that top 10 of the division. And when you watch some of Calvin's previous fights, I mean, he is there for leg kicks. Jeremy Stevens landed some on him. Zabit Magomed Sharipov, I can't believe that fight's over 2 years ago now. Where's that guy if he ever decides to come back? Like I say, if this predominantly stays a stand-up one where hands are really only being used, I kind of lean on the Kattar side. I do think the betting line's a little bit off, honestly. I think that the line should be a little bit closer than what it is now. It's like minus 200 on the Giga side. Plus, I think I've seen plus 190, plus 200 on Calvin. I like Giga, and that's the first time I've really kind of liked him pretty solidly in this spot. I actually think he takes out Calvin Kattar. I think he's going to make a big statement with this win here and comes out and stops Calvin Kattar, which Max Holloway couldn't do it. Zabit Magomed Sharipov couldn't do it. I like him to come out here and catch him with some of these body kicks and really set him up for like a stoppage via body shots in that one there. So I'm taking Giga. I'm going to take him middle part of the fight to... That's another thing I'm kind of worried about. We haven't really seen Giga going into the kind of late rounds, which I'm a little bit kind of skeptical about, because Calvin Kattar's did that. He's did that against decent guys as well. Now, if he goes into 4 and 5, is he maybe going to wear out a little bit and maybe the hands of Kattar come through? I think that's a possibility. But like I say, for me, I just see a stoppage in this fight. I think Giga puts a statement out there and puts himself right in line for a title shot, or even a big fight against Max Holloway. If Max, depending on what happens with Volkanovski, if he fights Zombie or whoever else he may face. But I like Giga Chikadze. I'm going to take him for the middle part of this fight to win via TKO. So, guys, that's my predictions for this fight card. We're 30 minutes in. That's kind of really where I want it to be with this card. UFC 270 next week. Looking forward to that. I'll put my picks across the bottom there for some of you guys that always ask. I'll try and get timestamps on there when I can get some time. But it's been great to be back. First breakdown in a long time of breaking down fights. coming on my 9-year anniversary, I think on the 13th, which is a couple of days away. So much appreciating to everybody that's been sticking around for that long. Please throw a sub on the channel if you haven't already. Please throw a thumbs up because it always helps. I'll go into the chat a little second and see what's going on. I'm seeing some of the comments there. Thermopolis should win with the grappling. Daniel's saying that's where she needs to win the fight, in my opinion. I think if she doesn't do that, then she won't win the fight. Just my 2 cents. What's up? Hope you're well. I'm picking Juarez here as well. So we're kind of talking about the early fights there. Jason, I see you in there. Bull Roar, I see you there. Joey Cruz. I just seen that there. Royval is pretty bad takedown defense. That's where initially I was kind of leaning. I think Bontorin could get him down and be heavy. But I like Royval to maybe squirt himself out of those positions, get back to there and kind of create chaos. So, yeah. Faceman, hope you're well. I'm back. Yeah, back for the new year. Mois audio. JP Bays needs Iron Brew. That's a pretty crazy thing that's going on with that. They are with the whole Cheyenne Bays and Woman Delidze and geez, what an absolute shit show. But hope everybody's well. Like I say, it's been great to be back. I'll be back next Monday. I was trying to get out yesterday, but my youngest kid kind of got sick, so I really had to be a daddy last night and couldn't get my predictions out. So next Monday I'll be back for UFC 270, Francis Ngannou against Cyril Gane. I've already kind of got early breakdowns out there for that. It was just for there. So what's with GP Bays and Delete? Go on to Twitter, tell 10th Realm. Cheyenne Bays was with GP Bays. They've finished. And there's a whole story with Delidze kind of being in there as well. So, yeah. Faceman, I have got Instagram, but I never use it. If you want to find me, if you've got Twitter, you'll find me on there more often. I'm never really on Instagram unless I'm just having a look at what fighters are up to. And I never check messages either. I'm really bad for that. But you'll find me on Twitter if you need me anywhere. Right, guys, all the very, very best. Enjoy the card when it comes around this weekend.